So I can never really stick to what I say, can I? Every time I'm like, I'm going to make this change to my content, immediately it ends up in flames. Last week, I'm like, Wednesday videos are going to be non-reviews, and Sunday videos are going to be double reviews. Come Wednesday and it's a double review, and on Sunday it's a single figure review. I don't know why I suck at this, I just do. But today I will fix that by talking about all those figures that got announced last week that people desperately want to hear my thoughts on. Because for some reason, most people seem to tell me that this is their favorite kind of video that I do. I'm happy to hear that, but also deeply saddened. Because do you have any idea how much more work my normal content is than this? Like, hey, this thing that I make that I spend 30 hours making that involves cameras, lighting, spending money on a figure, passionately crafting jokes for, coming up with unique and interesting ways to demonstrate facets of the figures that can only really be conveyed through actual touch, is not as entertaining to you all as me giving you the first thoughts that pop into my head about pictures of toys that aren't out yet. Don't get me wrong, I'm not salty and I love to entertain, it's just like, but I tried so hard on this other thing. Anyways, bear with me, because while a huge thanks, as always, to the usual suspects of Met, Goober, Sharksy, and Berto Boy for helping me out with this by sending me pics of the new figures, for some reason we also have a whole slew of new names to add to that list. I don't know what it was about this month that made more people than ever want to help me out, but I'm humbled. So big thank you also to It's Just Audie, Hypertech116, and Relic Hunter. And I suppose I'll start by pointing out that there's a new comic book universe getting started for the Transformers. I have no idea at this point if it's going to be any good in the end, but I know that people are always confused as to where they should start with comics, so really there's no better place to tell you than it's here and now. So if the idea interests you, here's your chance. As for the toys, we'll start with Space Prime, a figure that I feel like the odd man out on. So many of my friends and colleagues are saying how cool this looks, and while I do like the head, I just could not be less interested in this thing. It feels like the Robson Optimus all over again, where there's a cultural zeitgeist about a thing that just has no appeal to me whatsoever. And honestly, I don't get it. The colors clash, and because in one mode he's red, blue, and gray, and in the other he's supposed to be basically all white, you know he's gonna have to essentially be a shell former. All that color gets balled up and tucked away inside of a box meant to look like I don't even know what. Is that supposed to be a real thing? It looks like a space semi that's way too heavy to ever get dragged up to the moon. I know it's a giant sci-fi robot and everything, it just doesn't hit me. Then there's a bunch of figures that I'm calling G2 Cares. It's yet more Toxitron collection figures. And it's just a bunch of repaints of figures that we've already had a million of. I could have been interested in Lemon Wipe, were his face to be a different color than the rest of his head, but I just can't be bothered with the way it is. Or Watermelon Mirage, or I don't know, Not Depressed Dead End. The most interesting thing I have to say about the rest of these is that Road Rocket used their crotch rockets to piss their tidy whities. Why the fuck would you paint it that way, you psychos? They look like they rolled into yellow snow. Then we have a true sin. Just a crime against all that is holy. The terrible Shittlebee is getting re-released with Kingdom Legends Optimus Prime and a trailer for a full $30 this time. And great, oh yes, please re-release one of the worst, most confused figures of the last decade with an Optimus that makes him even more confused. Look how disproportionate Bumblebee's head is in comparison to Optimus. He's further away and yet it's still bigger. Honestly, $30 for this is a fair bit more restraint than I'd give Hasbro credit for. I mean, they sold this sub-Legends figure once upon a time with an even worse spike and charged 50% more for it. Here, they've added Prime and a trailer. And they're also only charging like 50% more than two Legends figures. So at least they're consistent, I suppose. And at least the trailer doesn't suck like Spike did. But I'd probably be more likely to pay $30 for this set if it didn't come with Bumblebee at all. Please, Hasbro, just sell the trailer for $10. I'll buy it. It'd be too much, but I'd buy it. Then there's the Holiday Prime, in the form that it was obviously always meant to take. And while I lament the loss of the green windows, the rest of this is a huge improvement on the colors. And it looks pretty cool. I love the head on this as well. I kinda really want one. Then there's Antagony, and I just don't understand what's going on here. They are re-releasing Inferno in new colors with two different wrong heads. I actually saw this get revealed in Dr. Lockdown's stream, and at first I thought it only had the regular Inferno head, and I was kind of offended. But then I realized that there was an extra head hiding behind his stream chat, and I had hope for about 2 seconds till I actually saw it, at which point my immediate reaction was, why the fuck does it have Scavenger's head? Yes, I know Scavenger was supposed to be Transmetal Inferno until Hasbro got cold feet about that for some reason. I want to know why Antagony doesn't have Antagony's head. I guess if you want a Scavenger, it's at least monochromatic, so customizing it should be somewhat simplified. And then there's Bludgeon, and boy do I have egg on my face because I was certain that they were going to do literally anything more than what they've done to change this from Tarn to this dude. This is the old definition of a retool. New head, new colors, and a new accessory, and call it a retool when it's basically a repaint plus. I like the Halloween colors, but without really any other changes, I'm not interested. Huge props to my boy Major Shitass for doing what he had to make the base figure worth a damn by doing major surgery to this thing until the shoulders worked properly. Even with the scarring, it just looks so much better now. But there's no reason it should have been designed with the ultimate case of hot rod shoulders in the first place. And hell, I'd actually even rate it better than I did if the whole thing wasn't nailed together with blind pins, so it's basically impossible to edit it without using a knife. Again, huge props to Major Shitass. Honestly, this would have been way cooler if it was a Legacy Armada Megatron retool. Then there's Dead Prowl and Ironhide. Is this stupid? Yes. Do I also kind of really want it? Yes. Bombshell. Oh my god, why would you do that to his head? You took the Insecticon with one of the coolest heads in the show, and you were like, you know what's important? The head not going into the torso in bug mode. So instead, you're going to give him the stupidest hat any Transformers figure has ever had. At first, I was pretty okay with it because most of the figure looks really good, but the more I look at it, the angrier I get because there was no earthly reason to do this. Hell, I really appreciate that they made a separate gun and the top of his antenna doesn't have to parts form off to give him a weapon. But now, with this insanely stupid change, they've made it so that way we have one really solid, though a little boring on the transformation kickback, a deeply flawed shrapnel, and a pointlessly compromised bombshell. This team started so promising, and none of them look like bad figures. Like, this thing doesn't look bad, but they ruined the most iconic feature of it. And if you don't know the character, you probably don't care, but Jesus does it bother me. Dreadwing, better colors than the original, I don't really have much more to say. Then there's this thing. I don't know what this is. I've asked several people. They don't know what this is. I think it's some kind of upgraded mainline Optimus Primal, but not a premium figure. At least I don't think it is, because it's even more wrong looking than the normal one, and they added a bunch of stuff to it to make it more like the original Beast Wars character. I'm so fucking confused. I'd be kind of interested in this thing if it weren't for the fact that Nemesis Primal had more colors than this, Revenge of the Fallen Jetfire was less pitch black than this. Is there a reason this needed to blend into the shadows more than a ninja? Then there's Detritus. So he's Hound in beige with a goatee. Okay, I mean, that's pretty much what he's supposed to be. I was just expecting rustier colors. Weird that we gotta look at the alt mode on this before 86 Hound, and it's wrong. The hood shouldn't slope like that, the back shouldn't look like that, the side shouldn't have a stepladder to it. This looks more like a cut-down Humvee than it does a Willys Jeep, though to be fair, that could just be the colors on this. Then there's a new second Jurassic Park 2-pack. I thought maybe Dennis Nedrybot was going to wind up being the thing that they tooled into Detritus because it's a dumpier, junkier looking build, but now clearly that's not what happened. This set looks pretty good, but my main takeaway is, Iguanus retool spotted, Iguanus retool spotted, oh hell yes, give. I am confused by the shins though, like for some reason, he has a second set of shins, floating in front of his shins, that plug into the tops of the thighs in beast mode. I'm sorry, what? And then there's the strong arm retool of Legacy Elita 1, and oh thank god it sucks, I don't have to want this. Everything about this is horrible, and I'm glad about it. Fuck this sociopath, she doesn't deserve a good toy. God, it looks like a cardboard standee of itself that misses the build of the character by a mile, and has a deeply unsettling head. And then the all mode is just confused. Like, it's a car that wanted to be a dune buggy that wanted to be a truck. And all that wound up as a travesty. This sucks so bad, and no one is going to want it, so get ready for another really bad girl bot to clog up the shelves. You know, at this rate, Hasbro is going to decide that girl characters don't sell, rather than come to the obvious logical conclusion that they need to stop phoning in the girl characters so people actually want them. Then there's the, I think, Studio Series Mirage, and I just want to know, was his head supposed to be fucked up or something? I've always assumed that the concept art was just at a funny angle to us, but every time I see a version of this character with this detail on his head, it's this weird, warped, lumpin' asymmetrical mess, and I just have to ask, why would you do that? Also, is it just me or is his right arm clear? There's a leak of Nautica, who appears to be another retool of Blur, both in the sense that the 86 Blur has an unreasonable number of retools for how mid it is, but also in that Nautica has already been a retool of Blur once before, and it wasn't good then either. Though, going by the panels on the arms, this looks to be a retool based on a retool, as those are clearly off the DevCon variant. Then there's SG Rodimus, and you know me, I'm a slut for a black and red repaint, so this looks super cool, and I love the fact that they turned the pizza cutter into a laser pizza cutter. Then there's Shadow Striker, and just oof, huge oofs. First up, I'd have no idea that this was a woman if I didn't know who the character was and wasn't told. Secondly, the head looks like it's off an animated Blitzwing. Also, does it give anyone else Egyptian pharaoh vibes? Third, hello Sideburn retool. Boy, you really look like Sideburn and literally no one else. Fourth, goodbye Sideburn retool. Your alt mode looks like literally no one. Fifth, oh my god, you're Backpack Girl. You are lugging around more of your alt mode behind your back than Ursi. Sixth, wonderful, another shell former. You love to see it when a figure basically is just balled up under their alt mode to transform. This is nowhere near as ugly as the strong arm. This also just sucks. So bad. This is a travesty. This looks like it's going to be the new Ursi, and I'm not just saying that because the feet look similar. Then we got pics of Core Snarl, and what the fuck? Why does it look great? The only other good one was Swoop, and this looks better than that thing. Robot mode is proportional and posable, alt mode looks great. Like, how is this so hard? And then you get to the combined mode and, oh no, that sucks. He just kind of balls up and then gets slapped onto Volcanicus' stump at the knee. It's amazing how much the lower legs just don't look like lower legs. Then there's the new 4-pack, and you know what? All I see is terrible figure if you don't use the fan mode, and Space Wheeljack fodder, hell yeah. Boy, it will be a lot more attainable for people to make a Space Wheeljack out of this, rather than the Unobtainium Siege Ratchet, or the way too much effort it takes to recolor Ironhide. Then there's this thing, whatever it is. Cool, one of Megatron's head lice. That's not gross at all, and I sure do want this. Then there's Trashmaster, who I swear is supposed to be Zombie Bulkhead, which is pretty cool and all, but what's more interesting to me is the final combined mode for the Junkions. And while this is not what I would have predicted in a million years, considering how all the others are so good at making human-like legs, it's also just kind of perfect, and exactly what it should be. This absolutely looks to be the best of the official Weaponizer combiners. And lastly, the Studio Series Optimus Primal, which I think looks a lot better than the mainline figure on the sculpting, and it's nice that it's not pitch black so you can see the details, but it's really boring as it is. Chris Robotco from my Discord server really showed off what this could have looked like with just some very subtle shifts to the color. And yeah, that's a lot better. Is it still super dingy? Yes, but it also just works and feels a lot more like Primal, who's had his saturation faded with time. Though I suppose that's not what's supposed to have happened to Primal in the movie. It's just that he's always supposed to have looked really boring and dingy, along with the rest of the Maximals, because we can't have nice things. It's weird that he has the lips. There's a shot in the movie where you can kind of interpret his face looking like that, but I just thought it was the monkey face getting transformed into the robot one. It's been pointed out, by the way, that he seems to come with Optimus Prime's axe from the movie, which is weird, and using the chain from his sword, you can upgrade Battletrap's mace weapon to turn it into the flail he had in the movie. Ultimately, this was a pretty negative one. The sad fact of the matter is, a lot of the stuff in the reveals were almost there. Some of it was miles off, but with most of it, if you just adjusted the colors, or gave it the right head, or changed even just the kneecaps, or didn't put a stupid hat on a character who shouldn't have it because you've literally lost your minds, then honestly, they could have been great. It's painful to see so many figures stumble so hard on like one detail each. Also, Shadow Striker is just kind of horribly painful in general, and she deserved a lot better. Strongarm did not, though. And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.